Secret of the Mimic is one of the most complicated stories in FNaF history, full of false leads, buried evidence, and endings that seem to contradict one another. But what if it isn't as disconnected as it looks? After weeks of picking through every ending, every tape, and every log, I think I finally cracked it. And hey, 92% of you guys aren't subscribed. If you love FNaF theories, subscribing is the best way to make sure you don't miss the next twist. Now let's solve this thing. In Secret of the Mimic, we meet Edwin Murray, a brilliant designer and engineer who was first introduced in the Tales from the Pizzaplex books. But his story differs drastically between the books and the games. In the books, Edwin is portrayed as a small business owner forced to sell his company to Fazbear Entertainment after the tragic death of his wife. But we'll come back to the books later. In the games, Edwin Murray inherits Murray's Costume Manor, a family-run business presumably founded by his father, Edwin Murray Sr. After his father's passing, Edwin is thrust into the role of head of MCM, despite having no real experience, nor much interest in running a company of that scale. Fortunately, he wasn't alone. While previously working under his father, he meets Fiona, a creative and passionate employee who quickly became an essential part of Edwin's life. Early in their working relationship, Edwin asked to use her voice as part of one of his projects.
Excuse me, can I borrow your voice for a project?
I don't even know you. Let's start again. I'm Fiona, and you are?
Edwin Murray. This is my dad's place, and I wanted to record your voice. Do you mind if I record you for a test?
The helpful bots, and she agreed.
I would be delighted to help. What kind of voice should I do?
Fiona soon became Edwin's rock. She supported him through his father's death.
Ed, honey, how are you holding up?
Oh, so much. He's gone. He's gone, and now everyone is asking me what to do?
Ed, you'll figure it out. Just take a deep breath.
Encouraged his dreams.
If you could change anything you wanted, what would it be?
I could start making some of my inventions for real.
And grounded him emotionally.
Your creative energy is amazing, and I love you for it. But I think you need to step back a little and focus on one project at a time.
Recognizing how much she meant to him, Edwin proposed to her, using the very machines they had built together.
Fiona, surprise, it's me, Edwin. Here goes. I can't think of a future without you. Will you marry me? Please?
They married, had a kid, and for a while, it seemed like they were building a beautiful life. But things were about to take a very dark turn. Now, originally, MCM specialized in mascot suits. Think like old school Chuck E. Cheese. But under Edwin's leadership, it expanded into a mini product empire. What started as costumes quickly grew into a brand that touched everything. Television programming, carnival attractions, soda, candy, animatronics, home goods, even entire entertainment experiences. MCM's facility is divided into several key areas. Some are strictly for production and operations, while others are designed to showcase products to potential buyers. Now in the sales wing, there are 3 showrooms. Birthday showroom, featuring Jackie, a Jack-in-the-Box style birthday mascot. Big Top showroom, complete with carnival games, prize counters, and ticket systems. And the Storytime showroom, a whimsical display that honestly reminds me of Donald's Dreamland from Toontown Online. Quick shout out to all my fellow Toontown fans. Beyond that, there's also a full theater, used to present MCM's patented television programming. And let's not forget the incredible welcome and goodbye show. Please make it stop. All of this, the brands, the bots, the world, was built by Edwin and Fiona, a power couple creating an empire together, until tragedy struck and Fiona passed away. According to the in-game tape logs, Fiona tells Edwin that she's going to Fallfest.
Ed, I hope this message reaches you as soon as you get a break. I have to go help the Fallfest crew, just for a few days until the installation is finished.
And shortly after, we hear a recording of Edwin, heartbroken and furious that she left.
Oh, why did you go? Supposed to be here with me and David.
There's even a text log asking if Edwin lied about Fiona and Fallfest for insurance money, pretty much confirming it. Fiona died at Fallfest. But what is Fallfest? Fallfest was first introduced in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for Help Wanted 1. It's instantly recognizable. A chilling green sky hangs over what looks like a typical fall carnival, complete with hay mazes, games, and family-friendly attractions, all branded under Fazbear Entertainment. We have 2 confirmed dates for Fallfest, 1970 and 1983. But in the timeline of Secret of the Mimic, in-game evidence points to Fiona dying in the Fallfest fire of 1973. Here's how we narrow it down. David's 5th birthday party is confirmed to take place on Saturday, December 6th, and 1975 is the only year in that time frame where December 6th falls on a Saturday. Using that, and the tapes from the Murray house,
You're missing the party.
David's 2 years old. He won't remember a thing. Happy birthday, buddy.
Wait for Mama.
David, Mommy's gone.
we learn that Fiona died sometime between David's 2nd and 3rd birthday. Since his birthday is in December, this places her death in the fall of 1973. In Moon.exe, we find a statue of a married couple. The woman is burned, and underneath her, we see the Fallfest snow globe. This imagery is echoed in Help Wanted 2 minigames. Both the FNaF 2 themed Phaser Blast and the Carousel minigames are set during Fallfest, and in both, the carnival catches fire. But here's where it gets interesting. I don't believe Fallfest was originally a Fazbear event. In fact, I don't believe Fazbear created Fallfest at all. Inside MCM, I believe we see a staged recreation of Fallfest, specifically in the Big Top showroom. In this showroom, we find posters advertising Big Top's annual carnival, and I believe this was the original Fallfest. The environment matches, a carnival-themed space filled with games and prize counters, and most notably, it features the same type of Phaser Blast minigame that we see in the Curse of Dreadbear. And in Moon.exe, we hand over the Fallfest ticket book directly to Big Top, clearly linking the character and the festival together. So here's my theory. Fallfest wasn't originally a Fazbear invention. It was Big Top's carnival, possibly created by MCM and only later became associated with Fazbear through a partnership or acquisition. And this explains something important. Why Fiona had to go. It wasn't just a fun festival. It was a critical marketing event for MCM. Big Top had to be in top form, and Fiona, likely managing or overseeing part of the brand, needed to be there to represent the company. But as we know, this led to Fiona's death. After Fiona's death, Edwin is shattered. Suddenly a single father and the head of a huge business, he can't keep up, so he turns to what he knows best: invention. To help raise David, Edwin repurposes an endoskeleton, one that can change shape to fit with any costume and mimic the voice and personality of any character it's programmed with. But here's the thing. This endoskeleton was not originally created to be a babysitter. I believe it was first created for use in the MCM theater. In the theater sales pitch, we hear Edwin proudly boast that MCM has eliminated the need for directors, writers, puppeteers, and actors.
Are the costs of writers, crew, and puppeteers holding you back? Here, there's no need for a cast or crew.
Directors are replaced with the Springlock director suit. Writers are replaced with the MCM story program. And puppeteers are replaced by the automated stage. But what about actors? We know it isn't the director's suit, that's locked to the stage. And yet, we see mascot costumes in the theater backstage area. That means something is wearing those suits. Something that isn't the director. Something that's capable of taking on any role with the right voice and mannerisms. That something is M1. M1 was built to replace human performers. It could adapt, mimic, and transform on command. And its design was curated by Edwin's earlier home good inventions. The magic coat rack, which adjusted size to fit any garment. This gave M1 the ability to change size and shape. The Stay-Up Latte, a coffee maker that learns your preferences. This gives M1's capacity to learn and retain behavioral data. The Mushman music machine, toys that listen and repeat. M1's ability to mimic speech and sound. It was a marvel of engineering, but to a small child like David, it was terrifying.
Why does it look like that?
Look like what?
It's scary.
A shifting, uncanny metal skeleton, so Edwin promises him.
It won't always look like this. It'll wear fun costumes.
Like what?
It can fit into any costume we've created.
And just like that, M1 becomes David's babysitter, wearing a friendly disguise, hiding what it really is underneath. But then something strange happens. Edwin begins to hear Fiona in the basement.
This is where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her.
At first, it seems like grief. He's searching for her, desperate for connection. But eventually, he hears something. He hears her voice. But I don't believe this is her spirit. This is the same line we hear in one of the Murray's home tapes.
That's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
A real recording of Fiona. And if Fiona died at Fallfest, how was her spirit present at MCM? I believe this is M1 mimicking Fiona. We know Fiona's voice was used for Mrs. Helpful, and M1 was designed to mimic both voices and personalities. If it had access to her recordings, it could reproduce her voice perfectly, enough to fool even Edwin. Once he realizes this, that it's not really her, Edwin doesn't give up. Instead, he's inspired, and he tries to bring her back in a different way. A bigger computer, one that can house all of her memories, mannerisms, and characteristics. This is the F10N4 machine. Plus, there's this log we find from one of Edwin's employees. Have you heard Fiona? I heard it again this morning when I was down in R&D. Very clearly through one of the vents, it was Fiona's voice. I swear it on my mother's grave. I heard her and Edwin laughing and joking. Why would Edwin lie about Fallfest? Did they fake her death for insurance money? I never did trust them. That log places the voice in R&D, which is where we find the F10 machine. If it were just M1 mimicking her, she'd have been heard elsewhere. But now Fiona's presence is localized, suggesting a new system is involved. But what happened to M1? Why not upgrade and keep using M1's body for F10? Well, I think the return letters answer this. In the return letters we read about different Murray machines going bad, like the Coat Rack, Stay Up Latte, Music Men, it's implying that all of Edwin's projects are turning against the user. But all of these parts are what made M1. So with those malfunctions, M1 begins malfunctioning too, posing a potential danger to those around it. So Edwin begins to work on M2, a completely different endoskeleton designed specifically to house the F10 program. We can see this in the blueprints found in the basement. They show two distinct endoskeletons, with core differences in design. M2 is not just a rebuild of M1. It's an entirely new frame, likely optimized for housing a digital copy of Fiona's personality. But F10 is growing impatient and is worried who's looking after David with M1 breaking down. And I believe this is when the Cradle message is sent. Edwin, please talk to me. We need to stop it together. Here are the blueprints for Cradle. It can keep David safe and provide boundaries. It's a type of computer and it's bigger than anything you've done before. If you won't finish the program, consider building the Cradle. It'll keep people safe. This message must come from F10 already active in the F10 machine. She's asking Edwin to keep David safe, meaning David is still alive at the time of this recording. She never refers to M2 as David, and I believe M2 is the program she's referring to, which confirms that she sees M1 as the threat. She's begging Edwin, if you won't finish me, the program, then at least build the Cradle. A containment system, a failsafe, a digital barrier to protect David. So Edwin builds the Cradle, which is not F10 and not Mixus, and he builds it to lock away M1. Now here's why I don't believe F10 is the Cradle. She says, it's bigger than anything you've done before. The F10 machine is not that large, no bigger than Edwin's other inventions, and certainly not compared to the room-sized computers of the 1960s and 70s. The Cradle must be something much larger, more powerful, a full containment system built to isolate M1 permanently. So Edwin continues working on both the Cradle and M2. But here's why I believe M2 was specifically made to house F10. We have 2 sets of mimic blueprints in the game, and they're not early concepts or scrapped ideas. They're finalized blueprints, and they're different. This isn't a new upgrade, it's a whole new model. Edwin didn't want another caretaker. He wanted Fiona back, and M2 was supposed to be her. So he copied F10's code into M2, creating a mobile version of her. A new body, one he could interact with, maybe even romantically. And this wouldn't be his first time. I mean, we all saw Dolly, right?
Edwin is a genius. Wink.
No, get back to work, you.
But then there's this tape.
There's a leak. Someone told them about M2. Every copy has failed. I don't even know why it worked the first time.
He's not saying M2 failed, he's saying the copies of M2 failed. He tried replicating the process, copying the F10 program into other units, possibly to sell or to experiment. But none of them worked. Only M2 succeeded. Now ask yourself, if M1 had been successful, why didn't he just copy that? Because M1 wasn't successful. M1 was locked away now. But another thing, in that tape he says,
I figured it out. There's a leak.
Who would have known about M2? Well, the entire admin staff at David's birthday party. And then there's this note. Why are we turning down work? The floats have been doing really well. Ed's modular system is groundbreaking. And now he wants to shut the whole thing down? He just sits in his office talking to that thing. I have no clue what to do. That thing. That thing was M2, now fully behaving as David's mother. But parallel to M2 being created, Cradle was finished too. And I believe the Cradle is the Sleepy Moon basement. When you explore this area, it's immediately strange. It doesn't function like the rest of MCM. There's no exhibits, no storage, no signs of guest access. Instead, you'll find a large-scale construction, exposed wiring, industrial fans, tools scattered around, and even a molten metal power source being funneled directly into the room. So ask yourself, what would need this much power, this much wiring, and this much space? Perhaps a supercomputer. But what's most suspicious is how purposeless this room seems. Unlike the Tiger Rock basement, which includes storage and Edwin's workshop, the Sleepy Moon basement exists for one reason: to support and contain something. There's only one entrance and exit, and you can see signs of modification everywhere. New wooden supports, added wiring, and broken walls allowing cables to pass through into sealed sections of the complex. Even the night shift note suggests there's rotating shifts of work here. But why have around-the-clock work in some old basement? Because this isn't just a basement. This is the Cradle, and inside it is Sleepy Moon. This idea is even supported in the employee logs. Hey Clarence, you as bored as I am? I can't believe we got the retail showroom detail again. So boring. Although, did you finally get into that elevator? That thing hasn't worked in so long, I don't even think Murray knows what's down there anymore. And then later, Sean, I found out why they closed it down. There's something below us. I've trapped it behind the carousel for now, but I don't know how long that can hold it. I programmed the monitors to give you the code. I gotta go, I'll mail you later. This tells us two things. One, the staff don't know what's really down there, and perhaps Edwin distanced himself from it. And two, something dangerous is lurking beneath the showroom, something that had to be trapped, locked away behind walls and elevators. Now, I believe the elevator was shut down after David's death. We know David dies in 1975, but the company doesn't fully crash after his death. But who is Sleepy Moon? One common theory suggests that Sleepy Moon is actually the trapped employee, referencing the night shift message. Hey, is anybody up there? I'm stuck down here. The elevator isn't working and I'm getting really hungry. Is anyone getting this message? It's a compelling idea, but there are several problems with it. First, Sleepy Moon emits mechanical sounds when walking. Not just jingles, we hear heavy clanking, like gears grinding or pistons shifting. And it tells us that the suit is not empty and not being worn by a human. It's an active, functioning machine. Second, there's the timing of the employee's message. It's possible he was trapped after Clarence locked the elevator, meaning the note could be relatively recent. And we never see a body in the basement, which is important. This game hasn't been shy about showing corpses when it wants us to find one. So it's entirely possible Clarence or Sean got the message and helped. But here's the more important detail. There's a working fridge and a full food setup in the Sleepy Moon basement. That implies something that we don't usually consider. Workers were actively operating in that space. If there's a functioning kitchen setup, that suggests shift rotations, possibly around-the-clock construction. So when someone says, "I'm hungry," that doesn't mean they're starving. That might just mean their shift ran long and they didn't pack enough food. This wasn't a random employee who wandered into a forbidden zone and got cursed. The note makes it clear. He's on night shift. That means a day crew was likely expected to relieve him soon. If the Cradle was being built here, in secret, away from the public-facing showrooms, then this employee was likely part of the crew building it. So the takeaway from this message isn't that someone died down there, it's that something much bigger was happening down there. And that leads us right back to the question, who is Sleepy Moon? Well, he's not M2 either. When M2 wears costumes, it still cycles through different voices, different tones, different phrases.
Surprise! You're not alone back here!
Sleepy Moon never does this. He has one voice and he sticks to it completely.
His baby's weeping.
And if you compare their audio, their movement sounds are totally different. And finally, the level design just makes it logistically impossible. To get to the Moon basement, we sneak past M2 in the retail showroom. For M2 to then somehow show up below us, he'd have to run through the retail showroom, enter the lobby, take the elevator down, and pass through the showroom hub, go into Storytime Showroom, jump into the giant hole, land in the basement, change into the Moon costume, and silently wait for us to arrive. All in the few seconds that it takes us to descend from the elevator. So that leaves us with the only answer that fits. Sleepy Moon is M1. If my Cradle theory is correct and the basement was specifically designed to trap M1, then what we're seeing down there isn't a possessed mascot or a disguised robot. It's M1 still functioning, and Candy Cadet already told us what happens next. In Ruin, Candy Cadet tells us a strange little story, one that sounds oddly familiar.
Now I will tell you a story about a mother and her little boy who lived alone in a cabin in the dark woods. There was a monster in the woods, but the mother caught it and kept it locked in the basement. But one day, the monster stopped prowling and instead listened and learned the lullaby. The little boy heard the lullaby and opened the door.
A mother and her son live in a cabin deep in a dark forest. She keeps a monster locked in the basement. But one day the monster learns her lullaby. The boy hears it, and he opens the door. We see that same dark forest in Moon.exe, and we see it again leading into the Storytime Showroom and MCM. I believe M1 is the monster, and it still has Fiona's voice, and it uses that voice to lure a child, David. But before we dig deeper into that theory, let's discuss the other possibilities. Some fans have suggested David was hit by a car chasing his ball into the road, which is how he dies in the books. But there's a problem with that theory. In-game, there is no road near his playground. The only areas he could have been hit are the loading bay or the parking lot, but we can see that his playground is fenced in. Another idea is that David died somewhere on the playground in some kind of accident. That's possible, but unlikely based on some other evidence. We know from the logs that David's birthday party was held on Saturday, December 6th, in the admin wing of MCM. In the Murray home tapes, we even see the party beginning and Edwin telling M2 to go retrieve David from the playground. But here's where things get strange. You can go into that party room in the admin wing, It's still fully set up, untouched. That alone might not be unusual, but then there's the email. One of the logs is a message informing staff that the party has been canceled. Now, if David had simply been found on the playground, injured or worse, someone could have just walked in and told the others. There'd be no need for a mass email blast, unless everyone was scattered. And the only reason for this would be if David was missing and people were searching for him for hours, leading them to be spread out. So if he wasn't at the playground, where was he? I believe he was in the Storytime Showroom. In the Storytime Showroom, the computers tell us two things. One, in case of a power emergency, grab the nearest starlight and head towards the marked exit. And two, the show shouldn't be activated. There's structural damage and Moon must be fixed before anything can proceed. Now think about what this implies. Someone activated the show when they shouldn't have. But who would do that? Here's what I believe happened. David was lured into the basement with M1's lullaby. He gets to the basement and frees M1, opening the door, just like Candy Cadet's story. David was bored and alone on his birthday, so they went to his favorite spot to play, through the dark woods, just like in Moon.exe, and into the Storytime Showroom. There, M1 puts on the Moon costume to entertain David, and David, being the excited little boy he is, sits in the middle looking right up at the Moon, excited for the show. And so it starts. But the Moon is still damaged, and the show shouldn't have been run. And that's when it happens. David is crushed by the giant Moon. He let out the monster, followed it through the woods into the cabin, just like Candy Cadet's story and Moon.exe, and he was killed. And that's why the collectible found in the basement is so important. It's not a random toy. It's David's ball, the exact symbol of his death in the books, now repurposed as the symbol of his death in the games. This is also why David's ghost haunts the theater, right in between the Sleepy Moon basement and the Storytime Showroom. He died as he fell through the floor. And that's why when we see M1 again, it's still wearing the Moon costume. Because as it happened, M1 fell down there too, but unlike a child, could survive. So it's back into the cradle where it will stay. Now after David's death, Edwin shuts down the elevator, sealing off the basement. It's not just a safety precaution, it's grief. He's locking away the place where it happened and refusing to confront it. But to Edwin, this was just a freak accident, a tragic malfunction with the giant Moon. He doesn't know it was M1. He doesn't realize what really happened. This is confirmed by the audio logs with M2.
It doesn't make sense. It's terrible, and there's no logic behind it.
But now, M2 begins to grieve too. And in that grief, and with her core directive to help Edwin, she tries to offer a solution. Build another. Start again. Fix it.
Try again. Make another, and we can all be together.
But Edwin is done. He can't take it anymore. And the more M2 insists, the more the illusion starts to crack. She's not Fiona. She's never been Fiona. She's just a machine mimicking the woman he lost. And then he starts to reach his breaking point.
Didn't. You. I let a machine raise my kid. You're not real. What was I thinking?
You do not mean that. It is me. I'm Fiona.
Stop talking like her. You're not her. I never want to hear or even think about you ever again. Ever!
Stop talking like her. You're not her. And M2 follows this command. And it changes. And it starts mimicking David's voice. And in that moment, grief turns into rage. We've seen Edwin deal with the loss of his wife, his father, his company even, but none of those brought this type of emotion. I believe this audio tape is what led up to M2 talking like David, which only frustrated Edwin more. And with this frustration grew anger, which caused him to destroy M2.
Stop. You're not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
Now, unfortunately, Edwin just can't catch a break. His company, Murray's Costume Manor, was already on a downward trajectory, but the Fazbear contract is what's pulling him under. On the project progress board, we can see that development is almost complete, yet it keeps hitting delay after delay. So what's causing those delays? 2 names, Henry and William. In the tapes, Edwin mentions that even his father warned him to not trust them.
They want to destroy you. Dad was right.
And sure enough, Henry starts changing items last minute, throwing off production and dragging the project out even further.
I got the change order from Hen last night. None of this makes sense.
But it's not just mismanagement. There's something more deliberate happening here. Fazbear is moving in. They weren't just bad business partners. They were sabotaging him. We can see it in the text logs. They're poaching Edwin's employees. Ken, after one interview they offered me the job. I'm gonna make double what I make here. You should come with me. There's a referral bonus if we can get more Murray employees to jump ship. And then there's this. We are almost there. I need the rest of the Murray staff contact info. The sooner, the better. You get that from me, and I can sweeten the deal. How would you like to manage one of the new franchise locations? William Afton. Openly bribing Edwin's own people to help dismantle his company from the inside. Both William and Henry were scummy businessmen. They didn't just partner with Edwin, they bled him dry, stalled his progress, stole his staff, and then let MCM collapse. And once MCM collapsed, Fazbear Entertainment swooped in and bought them out. We see it in the logs. Software development in the entire MCM catalog. Why am I reading it like King George? Software development in the entire MCM catalog. We would love to keep you on as a lead engineer. Although we now technically own the land, we would never touch the house your parents built. We feel this offer has been more than fair, considering how far behind you are. It's just too much for you to handle alone. William Afton, our scummy businessman. He didn't just buy the company, he gutted it. And it wasn't just land and software that was stolen. MCM's character designs and ideas, the very heart of the company, were absorbed into the Fazbear brand. Chica, Mr. Helpful, Big Top, Monty, Roxy, Foxy, even Trash in the Gang. All MCM creations, now branded as Fazbear Originals. The Data Divers became Faz Wrenches, but one character stands out the most. Jackie. When looking into this game, I couldn't stop thinking about the puppet blueprints. What is the puppet in Secret of the Mimic? Maybe it's our puppet, the marionette. But then I realized these blueprints are found on Edwin's personal computer, not some company server, not part of the official MCM product line. This was a personal project, and that changes everything. What if this was meant to be another protector for David? Like the Cradle, but one that could move freely. F10 was locked in a machine. M2 had become his wife, and M1 was sealed away. So who would watch over David now? The puppet. A quiet, watchful guardian. One that could comfort, protect, and respond. It fits, because the puppet we meet in the core games, the one that watches over Charlie, has that same instinct, to protect a child at all costs. Only Edwin never got to build it, because before he could finish, David died and Fazbear gutted everything. They took his work, they stole his ideas, and someone, probably Henry, found those blueprints, and he built the puppet himself based on Edwin's creation. But just like everything else Edwin created, it failed. But there's more. The puppet mirrors the mimic, created as a guardian, unable to fulfill its duty, neglecting the child, causing the death of the child. Neglect is what led to both Charlie and David's deaths. And I think this could even explain why the puppet acts the way it does in FNaF 2. In FNaF 2, the puppet only attacks when you don't wind the music box, unlike other animatronics. This is the puppet displaying the same behavior it was taught. Neglect equals death. I believe the puppet was sort of an M3 in a way, but Henry didn't realize the flaws in its design. I also believe the game is telling us that the puppet has ties here. At the end of Jackie's chase, the music box plays as we crawl through the vents. But the real tragedy of Murray's costume manor lies with Edwin. Edwin lost his father, his wife, his son, and finally his life's work. Everything he built was stolen, twisted, or forgotten. And what we're left with is so much more than the origins of FNaF. It's a story about grief, obsession, and what happens when you try to bring back the people that you've lost. So I kind of forgot to film an outro for this video. Look, it's a week later. Time is fake, continuity is a suggestion, and my hair lives in its own lore arc, okay? It magically grew 10 inches in the week of me filming this to editing it. It was magic, it just happens, we're not gonna talk about it. But with that, I am working on a new series that's gonna be going way more into depth in this whole franchise. It's in a format that I haven't seen done before in the community, so I'm really excited to share it and I want to make sure it's perfect. But before I started working on it, I was editing this video, so I still wanted to get it out for you guys because I spent a lot of time on it and I really want you guys to hear my thoughts. So hopefully you still enjoy it and you'll stick around for the new format coming out soon. Don't forget to like and comment your wildest theories down below. Maybe I'll react to them. And subscribe so you don't miss the unhinged rabbit hole that we are about to go down. Okay, that's it. That's my intro. I don't really have much more planned than that, so I am gonna go touch grass or something.